What's up guys, Kudou-kun here. Before we get started on the video, I want to announce that for the next 2 or so weeks, the Kudou-kun Fan Council is going to be open for anybody to enjoy. It was originally a Patreon-only thing, and it's going to continue to be a Patreon-only thing, but I realized that there's not much for people to do there right now, so I'm pretty much going to open up like a 2-week thing where just anybody can come and join. That way we have some fan traction, and that way there's actually stuff to do. If you're wondering what it's mainly for voting on what kind of videos you want to see next, like if there's a certain card game you'd like me to cover, or if there's a certain set, deck, something, anything that you want me to do, then this is a great place to go and talk to me about it and vote for it to be up. You can also talk to other Kudou-kun fans, me personally, and even find yourself some people to play games like Weiss Schwarz, My Little Pony, and Wish Cross with. Link is in the description, I hope to see you there. So people who have talked to me might know that Persona 5 took its place in my heart as my favorite Persona game. And this is far from an unpopular opinion. I'd say about half of the Atlas faithful say that this is their favorite Persona in the series. We were all wondering, how could they possibly top 4? And they did it. It is funny that their way of topping 4 was to make it darker like 3, but I digress. It's a great game, it's my favorite Persona game, and it's got a Weiss set. We're going to go ahead and check out that Weiss set today. This is going to be like my typical reviews. It's going to be 4 cards from each color, so a total of 16 cards, maybe some bonus cards if some cards combo off of each other. And if this video gets 100 likes and somebody leaves me a comment reminding me in a timely manner, then we will do a part 2 looking at 16 more cards from the set. Are we good? Let's get started. We're going to go ahead and get started with yellow here. I like the whole format of keeping the effect text off the card and just keeping it off to the side somewhere. If you have a problem with it, just leave it in the comment section below and I'll take a look at it later, but I think it looks a bit nicer like this. So first card up on the list is of course our level 3 Joker. In my opinion, this is the best card in the set, as you would expect it to be. Did you hear that, guys? In my opinion. I said in my opinion this is the best card in the set. Can we just accept that it's my opinion? Move on this time, maybe? Yeah? No, probably not. Anyways, for each of your other Phantom Thief characters, this gets plus 500 power, so it's a potential 11,000. Not the greatest effect, but if you have 2 cards in the back, it's like a natural 10,000 anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. It heals when you play it from your hand, which is always good. And finally, we hit its really wordy effect, and I will get into this step by step. So at the start of the Encore step, you can discard 3 stock and 1 Phantom Thief card from your hand for each character your opponent has that's either reversed or an empty space. Because it happens at the beginning of the Encore step, it happens before your opponent's had a chance to Encore any of their characters back into being rested. Now, if you paid for this effect, then for each front row character you have that's a Phantom Thief, you can reveal the top card of your deck, deal its level and damage to your opponent, and put that card on the bottom of your deck. Because you can pay to do this up to 3 times, although you do have to pay for it all at once, you can't just do it, use the effect once, and then do it again. You can essentially do this up to 9 times. It's just so much damage for how easy it is, and it all happens at different times. So this effect is just really, really good. If you're building yourself a deck that builds up a lot of stock on level 3, and you can just blow all of it on this effect, then you can essentially just win the game as soon as level 3 hits. I really like this effect. Like, this is the kind of effect that you build a deck around and you win with. So next up is Phantom Thief in black outfit, protagonist Joker. And, hey, wait a second. All they did was take Joker's pose from the last one and use it for this picture. Wow, guys, that is lazy. So, that aside, the gimmick behind this card is if it's fighting a green or a red card, you can give it plus 3,000 power by putting a marker under this card. You might not understand this, and this might sound a little specific, but pretty much the idea is there's 2 different level 1 Jokers, the other one being this one with much, much better artwork. And when you play one of them, you can take the other one and put it underneath this card as a marker. Now, which one you play and which one you charge as a marker depends completely on what kind of character you're facing. If it's a green or a red, you play this one. If it's a blue or a yellow, you play the other one and put this one underneath it as a marker. One of the cool things about this ability is at the start of the climax phase, you can just switch them out as you want. So there's really no downside to it. This is just a really good free Joker on level 1. In fact, if there were some kind of downside to it, I'd say the downside's probably that you have to run a bunch of copies of this card and the other card because you never know what your opponent's going to play. So it does take up a lot of your level 1 slots, but if you're willing to do it, then it's a pretty awesome strategy that's not very heavy in stock. Ryuji, I don't like you, but I know someone out there does. So what makes this level 0 interesting is the fact that it can encore itself for one stock one time pretty much. You attack with it, and then during your opponent's turn, if they attack over this card and reverse it through battle, then you can pay one stock to encore it, and then during your next turn you can attack with it again, and then you lose it pretty much. I kinda wish the effect was free, but it's still pretty efficient. You don't see effects like this too often, and this is a pretty good level 0 to round out your deck with. Finally, we're going to look at an event card called Wild Talk. If you don't have any Phantom Thieves in play, you can't play this from your hand. Should be a pretty obvious effect. So for one stock, you essentially get one of three effects. You can either look through your deck for a character and put it in your hand. It has to be a Phantom Thief of some kind. You can put this card in the stock along with the top card of your deck, or you can give all of your characters +1 soul for the turn. I think this card is pretty amazing. I think if you're running a yellow deck at all, you should probably run at least 2 or 3 copies of this card. This can never be a dead card. You can always search your deck for a character and put it in your hand. That's always a good effect. You could give all of your characters +1 soul on level 1 to give yourself a huge attacking advantage if you know your opponent doesn't have very many climaxes. The stock gain is but if you really can't do one of the other 2 effects for whatever reason, then you can always just get the extra stock. Maybe you only have 1 stock and you need 2 stock to summon a character. That's viable. Starting us off with green is going to be the level 3 Makoto, known as Makoto and Johanna Queen. Fun fact about Makoto, actually. Did you know that Makoto is actually the best girl in Persona 5? It's true! Whoa, what's this about Futaba being the best girl? Ah, that's cute. So when you first put Makoto in play, you can discard 1 card from your hand, and this card gets the effect that if it happens to step over a character this turn, that character goes to the clock. Spoiler alert, this effect is amazing, and you pretty much always want to do this. It's a shame you can only do it once, though. Hold on! When this character becomes reversed in battle, you can pay 1 stock and reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a Phantom Thief, Student Council, or Prosecutor, then you can put this card into your hand. So essentially you can play it, kick something into the clock, and then when your opponent reverses this, you reveal the top card of your deck and say, oh no, it's a Phantom Thief, I'm going to put this card back in my hand, and then you play it and you kick something into the clock again. Admittedly, this is a very costly ability. You're going to need a lot of hand advantage, and you're going to need a bit of stock to pull this off. But if you can do something to supplement for those 2 disadvantages, then this card is pretty amazing. It's almost a game-winning card. I'd say that the level 3 Joker's a game-winning card, and this is like second tier to that, but it's still a really good effect. We're also going to take a look at the level 3 Haru. She heals when she comes into play, which is always good. And if she gets frontal attacked, you can pay 2 and discard 1 card from your hand to make your opponent lose 2 soul, which is also good. I wouldn't necessarily say this is like a game-winning card, but the ability to make your opponent lose 2 soul when attacking into this and potentially just not deal any damage on level 3 is pretty awesome. We're also going to take a look at the level 1 Noir. It's Lady of the Phantom Thieves Noir. Wait a second, you guys did it again! It's the same pose! Bushiroad, please, you can't keep doing this! Persona 5 deserves so much more. So I wanted to look at this card to highlight one of the sort of special mechanics that Persona 5 brought with it. First, to get its first effect out of the way, this card gets plus 2,000 if you have 2 or more other Phantom Thieves, so it goes up to a natural 7,500. That's pretty good. But its other effect, if you step over something, like if you reverse a character with this card's attack, then you can take this, switch it with another character, and then give that character plus 2,000 power. For those of you who are confused about the rules when attacking a reversed character, it's pretty much the exact same as attacking any other character. Like, you don't get anything special for attacking a reversed character, but still, if you find yourself an easy target, like if your opponent still has a level 0 in play or something, you can attack over it, and then swap this with another card, and then have that card attack over it as well. And because this is 7,500 and can reverse a lot of stuff at level 1, you can also swap in something that isn't quite as strong, give it the plus 2,000 power boost, and have it do the same thing. Alternatively, you can do the same thing, but you can choose to give it to the 3rd character, the one that you didn't choose to switch with. All in all, a pretty great green level 1 if I do say so myself. Lastly in green, we're going to take a look at another event card. This one is called Advance Notice, but it's the calling card. This is the second mechanic that Persona 5 brought with it, is the idea that each color has its own calling card. So, yeah. Here's my thing though, I actually don't think many of the calling cards are that good, and I definitely think that green is the best out of all of them. So the way the calling cards work is if your opponent doesn't already have a face down card in their memory, then they take one card from their hand and they put it face down in the memory, and then you get to draw a card. Then you also get to apply some kind of effect. The effect you get to apply isn't based on whether or not your opponent had to put a card face down in their memory, so you could spam as many of these as you want to, even if there's still a face down card in your opponent's memory. There are cards that get rid of that face down card in your opponent's memory and then activate some kind of effect, and that's what you're supposed to do, but not many of those are that great either. That's a bit of an exaggeration. Some of them might be pretty okay. I don't think I saw many that I was that impressed with, though. Anyway, so this specific card has the effect that you can give one of your characters the effect that if it reverses another character in battle, it can send that character to the clock. For one stock, that is a really, really good effect. Moving on to red, the level 3 on is all out attack. When this card comes into play, you can draw a card, and this gains plus 2,000 for the turn. If you have its climax in play and this card reverses a character, you can take one Phantom Thief card from your waiting room and put it in your stock and then deal 1 damage to your opponent. These pot shots for 1 damage are always really good because 1 damage is so low, it's very unlikely your opponent is going to cancel it, and the fact that you get 1 stock on top of that makes this a pretty useful card. Guide to the Phantom Thieves Morgana, man. You guys get used to seeing this card's stupid face because you're probably going to be seeing it a lot. This card's effect is simple, but effective. At the start of your opponent's attack phase, you can move this to an empty slot in your front row. So essentially, as long as your opponent isn't attacking with 3 characters, this card can't be killed. It's a pretty lovable card. If you manage to get any copies of this guy, even if it's more than 4 copies, I recommend holding on to them because they're probably going to be worth a little bit of money coming up soon. Speaking of which, Morgana in car form also makes an appearance. So this card is essentially the other Morgana, but for all of your front row characters. Okay, so at the start of your opponent's main phase, you can pay 2 stock and discard 2 cards from your hand to put all of your other characters underneath this card as markers. Then, at the start of your opponent's attack phase, you can move this to one of your empty slots. If there's something on the field you know you can beat, like a level 0 or just an empty space or something, you can move it there. Otherwise, you can put it in the back row so your opponent can't touch it. And then finally, at the start of your attack phase, you can take all of your characters and redistribute them onto the field. Admittedly, the effect is a bit costly for what it does, but I'm sure somebody out there can find some use for it, and it is a pretty fun ability. As you might have guessed, we're going to be looking at an event card last in red. So, Mementos. You send this card directly to the memory and it doesn't do anything immediately. But if you happen to take damage that is 3 or more, you can move this from your memory to your discard pile to put 2 characters from your discard pile into your hand and charge 1 card from your hand into your stock. So it doesn't really do anything to negate the damage, but it does make it a little less sucky by giving you 2 extra characters and 1 extra stock. And finally, let's move on to blue. So first we're going to look at Futaba, the level 3. It's interesting, her Japanese name is actually Navi instead of Oracle, which doesn't sound as cool. But anyways, she's one of those weird level 3s that's meant to go in your back row. She gives all of your other characters with Phantom Thief or Coffee plus 1500 power. When one of your characters is being attacked, you can pay 1 stock and discard her climax, which is called You Think I'll Forgive You, and you get to essentially just make it so they can't deal any damage. The actual effect is if you have 3 or more other characters with Phantom Thief or Coffee in play, then you can choose the character that's currently in battle and give it the effect this card cannot deal damage to a player. So yeah, no damage essentially. Pretty harsh. They don't even get to try. And finally, during your opponent's turn, when damage taken by you isn't cancelled, you can look at the top card of your deck and put it either back on top of the deck or put it in your discard pile to make it easier to get to your climaxes. Arousal level 3 is slightly more offensive. Every time this attacks, as long as you have 1 other Phantom Thief character in play, you can pay 1 and discard a Phantom Thief from your hands to heal 1 from the clock. If you can build a deck around having a lot of hand advantage, it's pretty cool to be able to heal every single time you attack. Its other effect is at the start of your opponent's draw phase, if this card is in the front row, you can choose one of your characters and it gets plus 4,000 power for the turn, so it essentially helps one of your other characters stay alive. You could also just choose this card, so it's a 14,000 and your opponent can't step over it, and you get to use its effect next turn to heal again. The fact that this effect is free is just amazing and has so many applications, and I love the artwork on this card too. I know it has nothing to do with the card itself, but this is one of the best looking cards in blue. We're going to look at one more Yosuke here. If you have 2 or more other Phantom Thieves, this gets plus 2,000 power. It goes up to 7,500, just like the other all-out attack we looked at. And its climax effect is a doozy. So if you attack while you have its climax in play, you can pay 1 and search your deck for another copy of this card and put it in play as well. So essentially, let's say you start with an empty field. You play this card for 1 stock, you play its climax, you attack, and you pay 1, and you search your deck for another copy of this card, you put it in play. You attack, use the stock you just gained from attacking before to search your deck for a 3rd one, and you put it in play. And then you can attack with that one as well. At that point, you probably don't want to go get any more, because then you'd have to start putting them in the back row, but it's nice, okay? It's nice being able to fill up your field with just 1 card. And they're all 7,500s! How cool is that? Okay guys, the last card we're going to look at today is a card called Execution, and I need you guys to listen to me on this. This card is, without a doubt, no hyperbole, no joking around, the most busted card I have ever seen in the game. Ever. Some people are going to argue with me on this, okay? This is going to be a very divisive card for people who play this game a lot. So its effect is, you can discard up to 4 characters from your stage to your discard pile. Then you add up their levels and their costs. Then search your deck for a character whose levels and cost is lower than the cards that you discarded or equal to the cards that you discarded, and put it in any slot on the stage. So at level 1, let's say hypothetically, you play, let's say, like a changer that changes into a level 2 with 2 cost. And then you play like a free level 1 5500 vanilla. Or, let's say, slightly more realistic case, you play like 2 level 1s that cost 1 each, maybe like the 5500 all-out attackers, and then like a free level 1. You execute the 3 of them, search your deck for like level 3 Joker, and play it, and you just have Joker level 3 at level 1. This also applies to Makoto. It applies to Yusuke. It applies to all of the level 3s, okay? This brings in the potential of just getting some kind of game-winning level 3 at level 1, and then having your opponent just not be able to react to it. This card should, at least, get banned or limited in some way. If it hasn't already, I haven't looked into it. If it hasn't been banned already, then this card is going to get banned. If this card does not get banned, then use it, I guess. Like, this is going to be like the main centerpiece of everybody's deck, is going to be using Execution to get into level 3 Joker, and then pot-shotting your opponent for the next 4 or 5 turns to win the game. It's really unfair. Like, even if you're not taking that into consideration, even if you say that's a little too costly, just executing into something like at level 2 even, it's just searching your deck for a level 2, getting to put it in play, it's bullcrap. It's all of the applications of this card are really, really, really testy. I wish it at least was like a level 2 card. If this was a level 2 card, I'd say whatever. There are really easy ways to get level 3s on level 2 anyway, so who cares? But the fact that you have the potential to build a deck around just filling your field with level 3s on level 1 is... I don't know. I'm really not a huge fan of this card, in the sense that I think it's a really game-breaking card, but that's just my opinion. Please feel free to share your own opinions on the card. I just don't think it's very healthy. Okay, discussion time, guys. What do I think of the set? I think the set's great. I think it's a really fun set to play around with. I think it's a really cool addition to the Persona sets altogether. I don't feel like it really adds anything to the older Persona set, so I feel like this is sort of like its own contained universe. I don't think you would be like splashing any Persona 4 or 3 cards into this deck, but I could be wrong. People could experiment with it and find out that it's great. I think that some of the mechanics they brought to the table weren't quite as good as they wanted them to be. Like, the calling card, I think the green calling card is the only one of them that's actually, like, competitively viable, but I know some people will probably find ways to use the other ones too. I just think the green one is the best. I think the all-out attack things are pretty nice. Just having more climax combos in the game is always a cool idea. I think the idea of like switching characters out when they attack is really cool. I think all of the colors are really great. I think, in my opinion, yellow is probably the one that got sort of like the best part of the deal, and then maybe green, and then blue, and then red. But I got it wrong before, guys. So don't take my word too much for it. The artwork is it's a bit of a sticking point. They could have put a little more effort into the artwork on some of these cards, but overall it looks nice, mainly because the artwork from the game looked nice and they just took it from there. All in all, I'm very pleased, and I think if you're a Persona 5 fan and you're looking to get into Weiss Schwarz, this is a pretty nice way to get you into the game. It's not exactly the most noob-friendly of the sets that have come out, but I feel like if somebody were a Persona 5 fan and just wanted to try out Weiss Schwarz with Persona 5, they could eventually just figure it out. And yeah, good set overall. Thank you, Bushiroad. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. Man, this is so cool, but I wish they would bring it over here to America so it could be in English. And that's exactly what I thought, but it turns out that the Persona 5 set will be coming out here to America in English. You just have to wait until July. I hope you'll all pick up the set and play a few rounds with me. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. Those things really do help us out. And again, if we hit 100 likes and somebody reminds me in a timely manner, then I will make a part 2 to this video. There are more cards to look at and more fun to be had. Leave me your thoughts on the Persona 5 set in the comment section below, along with what you'd like to see me cover next. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudou news. Don't forget to check out the description, where for a limited time only, you can join the Kudou-kun Fan Council for free, vote on your favorite video ideas, talk to me, talk to some other cool people, and just generally enjoy yourselves. Until next time. You'll never see it coming, something, 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 and that's a lie.